Hello, Los Angeles. My name's Greg Gilman. I'm one of the founders of Science. We are based in Santa Monica. This is the first conference I've gotten to do in the last 3 months. It's within 3,000 miles of home, so I'm loving this today. I'm going to tell you, there we go. Today I'm going to tell you about Science, what we've accomplished over the last 6 years, and what we're doing in the blockchain space now. Because we are doing a securities offering, just imagine that every time I make a statement, I'm saying probably, perhaps, potentially, we intend, we expect, whatever, so that the securities lawyers in the audience, half of whom probably work for me at this point, don't get angry with me later. So Science is an accelerator, an incubator, and a venture fund. We've been in business in LA for about 6 years now. We've had more than $1.5 billion worth of equity value created in our portfolio companies. We've raised almost $400 million in follow-on funding, which has validated our investments from the best in local and national capital sources. We've now had 6 businesses acquired. The slide is a little bit out of date, including Dollar Shave Club, which was the single largest private venture transaction in Los Angeles history, where Dollar Shave Club was acquired by Unilever for $1 billion cash last summer. We've returned, and the stat we're probably most proud of is we returned all of the money to our initial investors in under 4 years, and they still have their full interest going forward. This was possible because we have, or I have, fantastic partners. Some of you may know Mike Jones, who was the former CEO of MySpace, which after selling his previous company to AOL, he was tapped to run that and wind it down and sell off the pieces. Peter Pham, I'm convinced that probably everybody here knows, his job is to raise money, and he does it probably better than anybody else in the country. And Tom Dare is our CFO and COO, who has taken multiple companies public. So all of us have built and sold companies in the past. We all have deep roots in the LA startup and entrepreneurial space, and we've all grown companies successfully over time. So that's working very well for our portfolio companies, where we've, as I've said, had significant success over the last few years. Now, when we work with entrepreneurs, we do it in one of 2 ways, right? We either develop the concepts internally and then bring on a management team to run the business for us, sort of a traditional PE model, or we partner with entrepreneurs who know that they want some help to accelerate the success of their business and help them get to the next stage faster and ultimately make their outcomes bigger. But for those businesses that we develop in-house, we've developed a repeatable process where we're testing at every stage of development to figure out whether we should be in this business at any given point in time or whether we should kill this and move on to the next opportunity. So we'll identify an industry, we'll go through a full analysis of what potential exits look like, what are the values of these companies, how are they being valued by the market, what are the regulatory and legal hurdles, and that helps us ultimately determine whether this is something we want to do. We then do a full analysis of the cost to launch the business, and once we've gotten comfortable that yes, this is a business that we could launch for a relatively comfortable investment, then we go into sort of step 2, which is, should we actually do this? Can we bring in the team? Can we have the talent associated with this business, and can we raise the money that's required to do it? And if so, what do those resources look like at every step of the process? And ultimately, one of the reasons why we call ourselves Science is because we get at every piece of the process data and figure out what is driving the businesses. So we understand the way our businesses grow, and we encourage our entrepreneurs to understand the same thing, right? So what are the fundamental underpinnings of their business? Because if they don't understand them, then they're never going to be profitable. And if we can't understand what those drivers of the business are, we should probably kill it sooner rather than later. So ultimately, we then developed a fast and efficient process to scale startups even further, right? So we ideate, design, we test. Depending on the results of the test, we revisit, we design again, we test again. And again, at any stage, we can kill these businesses. And ultimately, once we've sort of gone through this incubation flow, we decide to, yes, form an entity and then put resources into it to scale. And as I said, this method has led to strong validation from some of the best investors in the world to the tune of almost $400 million over the last few years. And that's because, as I said, we are into the data at a fundamentally operational level that most incubators or venture funds certainly are not. And this is the type of visibility we expect our entrepreneurs to develop as they grow their business. Because again, if they are not driving, or they're not understanding what is driving their business is driving them, and that's not going to lead to a productive result. So one of our case studies, our current company, Mammoth Media, which currently has 2 of the top 100 apps in the App Store, and one of them grew to more than 100,000 subscribers in under 5 weeks. So those are paid subscribers, right? So it's a mobile media platform that we incubated, and now one of only 3 companies that actually has this level of success in the US. And again, this is because they are in their data, and we help them develop the view and understand what is driving their business to a greater extent than most businesses at their stage of development. And what this means is that they understand on an hourly or even more frequent basis what is driving their business so they can adjust their user acquisition bids accordingly, right? So they understand at that level of specificity where they should be deploying their resources on an hour-by-hour, if not more frequent basis. So now that you understand a little bit about science and how we operate, I want to tell you a little bit about our blockchain vehicle. We announced Science Blockchain, which is a blockchain-only incubator that we announced about 7 weeks ago. The public sale started yesterday, and our counter immediately broke within 3 minutes of starting the sale, so we're stuck at about $10,250,000 the last I checked. I can't give you a current estimate of the actual amount raised, but we've been in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space for about 4 years. We originally got involved just over 4 years ago. We built a small mining operation, we built a small exchange, and for those of you that were in the space at that period, you remember how difficult it was, if not impossible, to actually get your businesses banked. So because we deploy other people's capital, our board took the position that maybe it would be the better part of valor to not pursue some of these businesses at that particular period in time. More power to all of you in the room who actually stuck to your guns and stuck with it for the last 4 years, because you've created a massive amount of value, and our board's now looking at us and saying, hey, why didn't you guys do that? So we've spun up a trading desk. We have 3 or 4 former Wall Street guys that have helped us get into the space to participate in a number of ICOs. Some of the companies you'll see today, including the company following us, we are investors in, and we've held hundreds of different cryptocurrencies at this point, so that we can better understand the ecosystem, understand who is moving and shaping the environment. We've brought on a world-class board of advisors, again, many of whom are here today. I know that Alex, Pierre, Mike, and Reeve are here, and I think the rest of them may be here tomorrow, who have helped us get into the space even faster and deeper than we were previously. So now, the question we get most frequently is, can you explain your token to me? Because we have what is undoubtedly the most complex token in the history of tokens, because we are fundamentally a security, right? This is not a utility token, so let's start at the beginning, we are a securities token, right? So ultimately, the investors in our token are investing in they're buying tokens from the issuer who will be the sole LP in a venture fund that will then invest in the incubator. All sorts of complex legal stuff that really doesn't matter that much, in my opinion, but what does matter is the economics of the token. So what we wanted to do is set up a token structure where the investors in the Science Blockchain token could benefit directly every time we had an ICO from a portfolio company. So what we do is we take 70% of all of the tokens that are held by the incubator in exchange for the incubation services we provide, and we flow those directly via smart contract to the holders of the Science token. So if you invest in our token, when and if we do future ICOs of our portfolio, you as a holder are going to get your pro rata share of all of those tokens flowed directly to you by smart contract. So you are essentially an investor in our entire portfolio who then gets the portfolio tokens as your directly held asset, and you can decide whether you want to liquidate or hold, or when you want to liquidate. We use the remaining 30% to sell on the open market to refresh the incubator. So it is a potentially perpetual vehicle, meaning we can do a potentially unlimited number of these incubated companies in the future, which means that for those of us following along, there is a potentially unlimited flow of future tokens from these portfolio companies to the holders of the Science token. But that's only half the equation, right? Because not only do we hold tokens, we also hold equity. So just like with Dollar Shave Club, where we made an initial investment early in the company and we held a significant portion of equity at exit, which meant we had a significant amount of proceeds delivered to us. And the holders of the Science Incubator were the beneficiaries of that. Here is the same way. But the question is, how do you return cash proceeds to a global pool of investors who hold your tokens? And what we arrived at, and what we decided was the best way to do this was to repurchase our tokens on the open market. So nobody was forced to be redeemed. Nobody had to sell a portion of their tokens. The market determines the price at which we repurchase those tokens. And we have a pool of capital from the sale of this portfolio entity that we then use to repurchase these tokens, right? So as you think through the economic reality of this is if there are unwilling sellers, then it probably has an effect on the price that is beneficial to holders of the tokens. What it also means is that there's an ever decreasing supply of science tokens in the marketplace. So if you couple the first half, which means we have a potentially perpetual vehicle that may just keep incubating these companies and be a potentially unlimited flow of future tokens, with the second half of the equation, meaning you have a continuously dropping number of total tokens in the market over time, it means that every token holder is likely, or at least probably, going to receive an increased amount of tokens over time as their pro rata share of the outstanding tokens increases, right? So ultimately, we've set up this vehicle to allow us to build as many companies as we can without requiring additional resources or additional sources of investment. And ultimately, that will benefit our token holders. And we as management hold 30% of the tokens as well. So we are fundamentally aligned with our token holders in wanting to make those tokens as valuable as possible over time. So what are we working on currently and what are we thinking about in the future? We're already incubating many companies, and the first details of those will be made public in the near future. But we're interested in sort of a range of potential investments, right? We are fundamental believers in the FAT protocol theory. So for those of you who are familiar with that or not familiar with that, it means that the developer of the protocol is where most of the wealth will be generated in the blockchain world, as opposed to the development of the application. So we're actively working on a number of protocols at this point. We're also very interested in tokenized asset-backed securities, right? So clearly, given our token structure, we are not afraid of complexity. We also have as our traditional LPs, sovereign wealth, large corporations, and other institutional investors that have at their disposal or have access to significant traditional assets that may be illiquid and thus great candidates for tokenization. And that's an area we are rapidly pursuing as well. We're interested in decentralized consumer and creative platforms, and this is one of the areas we are most rapidly exploring, as well as the services and infrastructure for the ICO market. And we've seen this start to emerge, but if you think about the relative size of the entire blockchain market at this point, or the entire cryptocurrency market, versus the other traditional markets, it's minute. So in order for the cryptocurrency or blockchain asset class to scale to levels of traditional assets, where you're talking about multiple orders of magnitude larger, you need, or those companies need at their disposal, a lot of the tools and infrastructure that the current asset classes have. And we are actively working on building that. So as I said, our public sale started yesterday. We are, because we are a security, limited to a total of 99 US holders. All of them must be accredited investors. There are, and I can't stress this enough, because we are a security token and structured as a fund, there are no discounts, no bonuses, and no bounty. If you're investing in us, you're investing in us because you think the actual business we're building will have value, and that will mean that your token will have value, not because there will be some immediate pop because we're giving you a big discount. The public sale, as I said, started yesterday. There is no minimum for the public sale at all. The 99 holder limit in the US does still apply, and the only limit is if you are paying in US dollar. If you are paying in US fiat, then there's a $25,000 minimum. Otherwise, there is no minimum for crypto investors. if you're interested, and if this is a slide, if you're going to take photos that I would encourage you to take photos of, because this is where all the key information is, please visit us at science.tokenhub.com. They're working, Argonne is our investment bank, and they're the ones that own Token Hub, and reworking the landing page there. It was a little confusing yesterday. I know if any of you tried to participate, we heard your feedback through the Telegram channel, and we're working on fixing that. The last two pieces of news. One, the question we always get is, what exchange will this be available on? And as was announced last week, the new T0 platform that Overstock and Argonne are building along with their market-making partner will be a full alternative trading system, and we will be the first securities token listed on it. And from what I understand, that is scheduled to be live before the end of the year, and potentially much sooner than that. And one last piece of news is that we've actually now partnered with Civic so that all of our future, or many of our future, ICO offerings of our portfolio companies will use Civic as their verification partner. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us either through those channels, or I'm here today and tomorrow and happy to talk to any of you. And for those entrepreneurs in the audience, not only are we raising money, we're also actively deploying capital now. So if you think you might benefit from a structure like Science that can help you get your business off the ground and hopefully have a much bigger outcome than you would on your own, please come talk to us. Thank you very much.